Fray Tormenta, the priest who wore a mask and fought for 2,000 orphans. A real story so incredible, it feels like a legend. In the middle of Mexico, among dusty streets and sun-washed towns, there exists a story that sounds almost impossible. It is the story of a priest who celebrated Mass in the morning, and by night, put on a wrestling mask and stepped into the blazing lights of a Lucha Libre ring to earn money for abandoned children. People called him Fray Tormenta, Father Storm. But behind that bright red and gold mask was a life much more violent than the wrestling ring itself. This is the full, detailed, human story of Father Sergio Gutiérrez Benítez, the man who saved more than 2,000 orphans with nothing but faith, courage, and a heart rebuilt from suffering. 1. A childhood swallowed by darkness. Sergio was born in 1945 in a poor town in San Agustin, Mezquititlan. His childhood was far from peaceful. Broken homes, violence, and poverty shaped his early years. At 11 years old, he began experimenting with drugs, handed to him by older boys on the street. By his teenage years, Sergio fell into deep addiction. To buy drugs, he stole, joined small street gangs, and survived through petty crime. He overdosed more than once, waking up against cold concrete walls and dark alleyways. Nobody came to help him. Later in life, Father Sergio often said, "I was a child nobody loved." One day, while running from police, the teenage Sergio ducked into a small church. He wasn't searching for God, just a place to hide. But a priest approached him and gently asked, "Would you like to confess?" That simple question shattered years of emotional numbness. For the first time in his life, someone looked into his eyes with compassion, not judgment. Sergio cried, deeply, painfully. And there, in the quiet of a confessional, his life began to change. He decided to quit drugs, rebuild himself, and eventually felt called to the priesthood. 2. A vocation born from wounds, Sergio entered the seminary. He learned discipline, prayer, and how to live with purpose. He relapsed many times, physically and emotionally, but he always stood up again, driven by an inner force he hadn't known before. As he later said, "I became a priest not because I was holy, but because I knew what hell looked like." After years of formation, Sergio was ordained a priest in 1973. Instead of choosing a calm parish, he asked to serve in poor neighborhoods, among the forgotten and abandoned. And it was there he met them, the street children who changed his life. 3. The first home, a small paradise for abandoned children. Father Sergio began rescuing homeless children. Some were abandoned in trash bins, some ran from abusive parents, others survived by begging or stealing. He took them into a small wooden shack and named the place La Casa Hogar de los Cachorros, the home of the puppies. It was a tender nickname for fragile lives. 8 children became 15, then 30. Each carried a heartbreaking story. One had cigarette burns on his arms. Another hadn't spoken a word in months. Some had never been hugged before. Father Sergio cooked, cleaned, taught them to read, and gave them what they had never known, a family. But food ran out quickly. Bills piled up. By 1978, the orphanage was on the verge of closing. A priest without income could not sustain dozens of children. He prayed all night, "Lord, show me how to save them." And the answer came unexpectedly. 4. A destiny revealed. The first mask. One night, exhausted, Father Sergio watched an old Mexican film, El Señor Tormenta, about a priest who secretly became a masked wrestler to fund an orphanage. People laughed at the movie, but Father Sergio cried, not because it was touching, but because he saw a divine sign. "This is how I will save my children." He decided to enter the world of Lucha Libre, Mexico's famous masked wrestling. He chose the name, Fray Tormenta, Father Storm, a fierce name for a man with a bruised past, but a burning heart. 5. 2 worlds, 1 soul. By day, he celebrated Mass, cooked, and helped with homework. By night, he put on the red and gold mask and stood under the burning lights of the ring. Training was brutal. He was over 30, slow, inexperienced, constantly beaten. He broke his nose, sprained his legs, tore muscles, suffered concussions. But each time he fell, he whispered, "If I quit, my children will starve." And he rose again. His strength did not come from his body, but from his love. 6. 23 years in the ring, paid with blood, sweat, and tears. From the late 70s through the early 2000s, Fray Tormenta became an icon, not because he was the strongest, but because he was the only wrestler fighting for children's lives. Each match had a real value. A small match, 1 week of food. A medium match, pay electricity and water. A major event, months of security. Over 23 years, he supported more than 2,000 children. Many grew up to become doctors, engineers, teachers, even a priest. One child once told him, "You were the first person who ever hugged me," and he cried. 7. The secret revealed, and the world is inspired. In 1991, after a night match, another wrestler saw Father Sergio celebrating Mass. His secret was exposed, but instead of scandal, Mexico responded with admiration. Newspapers covered him, TV stations interviewed him, and people donated to keep the orphanage alive. Fray Tormenta became a symbol of compassion. 8. From real life to films, a legacy beyond the ring. His story inspired many artistic works. 1991 Mexican film Fray Tormenta, 2006 Hollywood film Nacho Libre starring Jack Black, comic books, manga, video games, and wrestling characters. One of his children even became a wrestler, taking the name Fray Tormenta Jr. 9. His last years, the mask still with him. He retired in 2011. Around 2018, he developed early-stage memory loss due to age. But he continued to live at the orphanage. He still walked room to room each morning, checking on every child. Sometimes, he would put on the mask again, not to fight, but to remember the battles he won for love. Today, the orphanage is still open, assisted by former wrestlers and charities. 10. The legacy of Fray Tormenta, a heart transformed. His life proves that the past does not define the future. Even the fallen can rise and save others, and love can turn broken men into heroes. He once said, "I wore the mask so people wouldn't know who I was, but I learned that what matters is not who you are, but who you fight for." And he fought, for 23 years, for the children nobody wanted. This is why the name Fray Tormenta will never fade.